Welcome back to another episode of the Oner podcast, the podcast where we break down and review films all in one big, long, unbroken take. I'm Austin Archer, and with me, as always, is my childhood next-door neighbor and lifelong best friend,
Kramer, England.
Yeah, okay. We are talking about Curry Barker's film Obsession, which is in theaters right now. A lot of buzz around this movie, a lot of hype. Do you think it earned the hype?
I think it more than earned the hype.
Yeah.
I think it I went in thinking, man, I don't know how this movie can be as good as everybody's saying it was. And it was better in my mind than and I had pretty high expectations and it surpassed them. So
I'm wearing my TIFF hat. I got this hat when I was in a film at Midnight Madness at the Toronto International Film Festival, and Obsession was bought after being in Midnight Madness at the
What year were you in?
I was there 2022, I want to say, or 2023.
Okay.
I can't remember which one. It might
one of those.
Yeah, one of those years. 23 or 22. But I mean, such a cool story behind how this got made. I've been a fan of That's a Bad Idea for a while now. I think that Curry and Cooper are very funny together.
Yeah.
And I really like I think they're both good actors, and that's what makes That's a Bad Idea funny, is like they're both good performers. And then I think good actors can be good writers.
Totally.
Like Jack Nicholson, there's this thing that the story Matt Damon always tells, or maybe it's Leo DiCaprio, I can't remember who tells the story about Jack Nicholson during The Departed, and he goes, you know what makes an actor good? You got to be a good writer. And it's like, you got to be able to think of if it's not on the page the exact way you want to say it, your adjustments need to be better than what's on the page. And I think that, a lot of the way that Curry and Cooper write comes from the way that they play off of each other, and they have a fun rhythm. But anyway, all that to be said, they made this movie for $750,000, shot it in LA, which I can't believe how they got away with shooting for so little in such an expensive town. And had hopes of hopefully getting distributed on Shudder. And I don't think they thought while they were making it that it was going to go and blow everybody away at Midnight Madness and then have a bidding war between Focus Features and a bunch of,
it sounds like they were very surprised that all happened, which is awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, when you're so close to a project, obviously you love it because it's your baby. But it's hard to know, do other people see what I see? Do other people, see the...
And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would not be surprised if this gets nominated for an Oscar. Probably for
Indy Navarrette.
Navarrette. Yeah, she was absolutely amazing. I think that's the most likely if it does. If it doesn't, I think she's going to be in the conversation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think she should be.
I think she should be as well. And there's so much to be said about Indy Navarette's performance.
Amazing.
If she did, it would set what I think should be a new precedent and a more normalized precedent, which is we should be nominating actors from horror films more often. For some reason, there's this weird thing that award shows like the Golden Globes and the Oscars have, and all of them, like the SAG Awards, I guess the actor award, whatever, have against nominating performers from horror films. There's something, I think it comes from the old Hollywood designation of horror as being like a strictly B movie thing, that it's it's not a serious art form. It's meant to be kind of inherently over the top and silly, and it's meant to be just kind of fun and schlocky, but it's not like real art. And then in the 21st century, they've been really trying to push the idea of elevated horror, but it's not like this stuff didn't always exist with things like Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist and The Sixth Sense, and different movies that had a little bit more of a and The Sixth Sense was one that sort of broke with precedent, and Toni Collette was nominated for that, Bruce Willis was nominated, Haley Joel Osment was nominated, and it was a rare instance. But I think that at this point in the year, again, it's very early in the year to make calls like this, but at this point in the year, you're going to see Indy Navarette's performance on a lot of top 10 performance lists of the year for sure by the end of the year.
Yeah, and I agree. It is very early, so it could very well get lost. But I think about weapons, and I mean, what's her name? That won Best
That's
Supporting
right.
Actress.
Yeah, Amy
So,
Madigan
which
just won.
Amy Madigan, yeah. So this could honestly, I mean, I think she was better than Amy Madigan. I mean,
Oh,
not to take down Amy Madigan, she was amazing, but like this blew my mind.
I think
Like,
Indy Neverett just turned in like a historically good,
yeah,
like go down in the history books as like one of the great
yeah,
horror performances of all time.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's like it's one of those things where you're kind of watching it, and like a big part of what makes the movie so spectacular is her work.
Oh,
And
totally.
it's inside of it. It's not that's not to say that like the movie's not good. And
No,
it's
no.
it's just to say that like it's even more of a compliment that it's like she's just so compelling. Olivia put it in a really interesting way,
Yeah.
and it's something that like I can only say because I'm quoting my girlfriend here.
Yes,
I
yes,
I, I would not say this as a man. I would not talk about
yes.
Indy Neverett's looks like this, but
Mm,
Olivia was like, it's so crazy because she's such a like insanely good looking person, and she's
yes.
so like insanely pleasing to look at, and she manages to make it like really hard to look at her for
Yeah,
most of the film. Like she's very scary to look at for a
yeah.
lot of the film, and it's like, yeah, that's a really interesting thing to point out. Like a
Totally.
person who should be who's very like traditionally aesthetically pleasing to look at is giving this performance where you're like
Yeah,
where her face is like this
yeah.
terrifying.
Well,
Yeah.
and she toes the line between like, oh, she's a really pretty, like girl next door type girl. And then she does this like really scary, she can get really scary where it's like, oh my gosh, I think she could kill somebody. And then
Mhm.
she also gets into the crazy of like, she just seems overly obsessed. And she somehow manages to use those three different personas throughout the whole movie, and
Yeah.
it all like works. Like even after the wish is made, there are times when she seems very normal, right? Like they have that montage of them like, having their little love time or whatever, and she seems totally normal. And then and then she's in the corner, which I don't know, she seems to play it these three different ways, or just she has such a range within her character. It's kind of amazing what she was able to do.
It's sort of it's a very different character, but it's sort of the same kind of thing that James McAvoy had to do in Split and Glass, where
Yeah,
the
yeah,
acrobatics of being like, I'm going to have to switch on a dime between
yes,
these different emotional places as these different personas take the spotlight and take over.
yeah,
And Indy's got to do that same kind of thing where she's got to go from being like possessed by a demon to being normal girlfriend to being kind
yeah,
of needy, possessive, whiny girlfriend to being terrified person who has no idea where they are, and
yeah,
do all of that in the span of 30 seconds
yeah,
and let us see all of it. And it's
yeah.
like, I mean, it's just it's really like you can't take your eyes off of it. It's
No,
I
no.
want to go back and watch the movie again just to watch her work again.
I
You
know, I
know?
do too. But it
Yeah.
is also absolutely terrifying. This movie is so okay. I went and saw this with my friend who I live with in my neighborhood, and we are both older men, and we were terrified going home after the movie. He's like, dude, you're gonna watch and make sure I get in my house, right? And I was like, yes, yes, I will. And then and then I went home, and like my wife had fallen asleep, and I like got in bed, and I was like, she woke up, and I was like, honey, I'm really sorry, but I have to watch something. And she goes, why? Do you have to watch for the podcast? And I said, no, I'm terrified and I need to get my mind off of this movie. She's like, are you serious? I said, yes, I'm gonna watch The Simpsons for a little bit. And I did. It was so
Dude,
scary.
dude, no way. That's
Yeah,
so
a
funny.
true
So,
story.
okay, I really liked this movie, but I
Yes.
didn't have. I mean, maybe I'm just a little desensitized to because I watch a lot of horror, and
Right. And I don't
especially
watch a ton of
yeah,
horror.
I've been watching a lot lately too because I'm
Yes, makes
developing
sense.
a horror film, and it's like so I've
Yeah.
been really in that world, and I love when I'm in the experience. Like I just watched uh um Hokum, and I thought that was
Oh, good.
fantastic and
Yeah,
so
good.
fun, and I want to get more into Damian McCarthy's work and stuff. But like I don't like, I'm pretty good at just, like, sort of leaving the experience at the theater once I step out and just
Yeah,
being like,
yeah.
"Wow, that was crazy." I also really liked the movie Undertone from this year. I feel like indie
Yes, I've
horror
heard that's good, yeah.
is really working. And we got Backrooms coming up, and I'm so excited
Yeah,
for that
super
too.
excited for
Another
that too.
young director. These
Yes, yes,
I
very
I s
young.
I said to you after I saw
Yeah.
Obsession, I was like, "It was so good it hurt my feelings,"
Yeah, I
because
totally get that.
it hurts my feelings when these young kids
Oh,
are when they have this much game. But
yes, when they're
but
that good at what they're doing.
like, Olivia watches a lot of scary movies with me, and she just kept saying the whole way home, she was like, "That's the scariest movie I've ever seen." She's like,
Yeah,
"That's the" she's like,
yeah,
I've never been that scared watching," and she's like, "I'm still just scared
yeah,
thinking about it," and yeah.
and like, it's interesting. So, like, when I saw The Grudge and when I saw The Ring, like, those 2 movies came out very similar times.
Mhm.
Like, but when I saw The Grudge, in my bedroom growing up, I had my bed and then my closet was next to my bed, and in the top of the closet was the attic space. So, like, there was an attic thing, and I laid down in bed and I was like, "I can't sleep with the lights off." Like, I like, after I saw that movie, I was terrified just because of the monster. This
Yeah.
wasn't really like it's not like I was scared of the monster. It was so off-putting and, like, so unnerving that, like, the darkness that they use in the film, it just felt eerie. The rest of the night was just eerie and just I
I
felt
also
off, and but it was such a different horror experience that I
yeah.
loved it so much. Yeah.
It's not just jump scares. There are a
No.
handful of jump
Yeah.
scares in the film, of course, that it's just you gotta, but
Mhm.
it's not just that. It's he does a really good job with just tone and with getting under your skin
Yes.
and
Yeah.
sort of building things out bit by bit and
Yeah.
escalating at a nice
Yes.
pace. There was
Yes.
near the end of the first act, I was wondering like how much can he actually get out of this concept? Because
That's what I thought too.
I already started kind of feeling like, is it just gonna be a series of, like, scenes where it's like, "Boy, my girlfriend sure is acting weird," you know?
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
the way that he layered in the subtle escalation
Yes.
of things and the way that he would
Yes.
catch you off guard and surprise you with like, "Oh, that's further than I thought we were." Yeah, or
Yes.
that's further than I thought she would go,
Yeah.
and the way that he would, like, undercut a scene that seems relatively tame or,
Yeah.
and that was all working really well, but, also, there were, like, sequences where, like, because you were all familiar with horror movie structure where you just, like, know something's gonna happen,
Yeah.
and the way that even that's utilized, that you're just sitting there going,
Totally.
and,
Yeah.
and you're waiting for it, waiting for it, waiting for it. I'm thinking specifically about a scene that happens in a car later on in the
Yes.
film,
That's the
that just
exact scene I'm thinking of.
everyone's just sitting there going, "Ugh," like, like, you can
Yeah.
just feel it,
Yeah.
but, like, yeah, I mean, there's the thing that I think is that I really like about this movie is it's like my favorite kind of horror, which is a horror movie that's about stuff that's actually scary in real life,
Yeah.
and it's something that not a lot of people talk about, which is like falling in love. Not even not that this movie is a movie about actually like falling in love,
No. No.
but falling in love is a very vulnerable and scary thing because
Yeah.
what you're doing is basically making yourself vulnerable to being hurt way worse than you can be hurt by someone who you're not in love with.
Yes.
And the disappointment that you can feel if your partner turns out to not be who you thought they were, or
Mhm.
if, uh, I mean, geez, if you're in a really deep romantic connection with someone and they get sick and die, or they, like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like just like the hurt you're opening yourself up to, that real life fear of like, well, now that I'm in love with this person, my new fear is losing them.
Yeah.
Or, or my new fear is like, what if the relationship stops being
Mhm.
good and starts turning into something? Because I think a lot of people have lived through the experience of how fun it is to fall in love, those early stages of a relationship, and then what a nightmare it can become when the
Right.
floor drops out and everything changes.
Yeah.
And I love a movie that can talk about a real human experience and give it this sort of heightened supernatural bent that
Yeah.
heightens everything, and makes everything a little more entertaining and a little more like big, but ultimately is talking about something real.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, and I do love the fact that this is a wish gone wrong
Mhm,
scenario. This is a wish gone wrong movie, right? Be careful what you wish for.
mhm,
But it also it online with what you're talking about of it being like real life. Besides the fact that there's a wish, it just sticks with this, you know, very real thing of just her being overbearing.
mhm.
And but then it's also against her will. This is not
That's
her
the
choice.
thing. I think that there's so many smart things that he
Yes.
does here because it's like
Yes.
it shouldn't just be a movie about like because originally
Yes.
his original idea was like, what if I made a movie about someone who's just like
Yes.
scarily obsessed with someone else?
Yes.
And that's a movie you could make, but then you run the risk of being like, well, now you're just sort of playing into this stereotype of
Yep.
like women are
Yep.
crazy
Yeah.
and you're
Exactly.
doing the fatal attraction thing. You're doing
Yeah.
the like, you know, the
It's
Glenn Close, like,
it's a
oh,
different movie. Yeah.
and that's a totally different movie. I think it makes it so much stronger when what's happening with her is not actually her, and it's something that
Yeah.
he did.
Yes.
And that makes it so much more complex. But then also there's this layer of like you could go really surface level with it and be like, men are really bad, and this man like he but it's like I even think the way that the character Bear is written, it's not like he thought his wish was going to come true. Like, it's not like he thought that, like, the magic like, you know, it's like, I think that, like, initially he's like, "No way." You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so he's kind of testing it and be like, e okay, let's listen, this is our spoiler conversation.
Yes.
We're talking spoilers.
We're gonna
You know
talk
the premise
spoilers.
of this movie. This kid, Bear, is in love with his, uh, childhood
Yes.
friend, Nikki, that they work
Yes.
together at a
Yes.
music shop. He's trying to tell her how he feels. He doesn't have the guts to do it. And what's interesting, what's really cool about this pivotal scene where he drives her home from trivia
Yeah.
and he's gone to this store to buy her a necklace because they were talking on the
Yes.
phone earlier that night and she lost her crystal necklace. And while he's there, he finds the One Wish Willow and he decides to give her that as a gift. You know, just sort of to be like, hey, you know, like maybe you can make a wish
Yeah.
and find your necklace or what, you know, whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever she wants to make a wish about. But he's so bad at communicating his feelings. He can't talk. He just gets
Yeah.
and what's interesting about this scene is we don't really know in the audience that he's for sure friend zoned. The way that she's talking to him seems like she could be opening up the door to being like, "Hey man, if you got something to say to me, like
Yes.
I'm like say it."
Yeah.
He sort of fumbles near the end of the scene and he panics and he calls her Freaky Nikki, which is what people called her in
Oh
high
yeah.
school. And she's mad that he said that, but that's when she's like, "Hey, if you like me, you should say it right now."
Yeah.
And she could be upset at him, but also she might be saying, like, if you're trying to tell me you like me, but you're panicking, so you're negging me, don't do that. Just be straightforward.
Yeah.
And but there's like it's like every woman I know has had the experience of telling a guy friend who they see as like a really good friend, like, "I really value our friendship.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're one of the only people I can talk to like this. You're the," you know, and
Yeah.
thinking that it's understood that they're talking about like the value of
Yeah.
the friendship, while the
Yeah.
guy is thinking, "Oh, she's saying I'm like she the," and then
You
every guy
constantly think you have a chance.
right, and
The guy.
every guy I know has had the experience of being like, "Oh, I thought she was giving me a signal to, like, make my feelings known,
Yeah.
and I
That
was wrong." We you know,
that was definitely me with a
a
girl
person
named Nikki.
I was gonna ask you about
This
that, but
is
I was gonna ask you about that privately. I was gonna be like, "Do you
No,
want
no, it
to"
definitely I yeah, that's why I could relate to this movie so much, like,
I'm sure that
dude,
was
yeah.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
which is funny. Obviously, it didn't end the same way, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But, this is this is this
Uh,
is I do wanna ask you,
yeah,
and so many people have had that experience, right?
right.
I do wanna ask you though, what do you think about Bear? How do you view him in the movie? I have a very solid feeling towards him, but what is your feeling towards him?
Well, what's smart is that Curry doesn't tell us immediately. I think that, like, because we in the audience know from the jump, we know from the trailer that Nikki is in this relationship against her will.
Yes. Yes.
But what's smart about the way that Curry's written this is we're not entirely sure that Nikki wouldn't have been open to something if Bear could have just figured out
Yeah.
how to
No.
talk to her, how to just ask her on a date. Because that's listen, I've dated people before who were friends who like I mean, I dated a woman for 3 years who and you know, you're not you're like I took no for an answer. I asked this person on a date who was a friend of mine and she said, honestly, I'm not really dating anyone right now. And she said, so I don't think right now is the best time. She didn't say like, oh no, I don't see you that way. I
Yeah.
don't think of you that
Yeah.
way. She just said like, honestly, I'm not really dating right now. And I said, no problem. Totally understand. And we went
Yeah.
back to being friends. And then like I was doing a play and she came and saw the play. And then like we were hanging out after the play and like things just felt like they were getting flirty. And so I
Yeah.
was like, I'm just going to ask this one more time. And I was like, and if the answer's still no, you'll never hear it
Yeah.
from me again.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll never say anything about it again. And I was like, are should we try going on a date? And she was like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's try it.
Oh,
And so
good.
it's like,
Nice.
it's one of those things where it's like, just because a person has you in a certain zone doesn't mean that like there's no possibility of like explore like
Right.
people date people who used to be their friends all the time. Like that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
And so I think that like to immediately assign to Bear that he's like a predator and that he is knowingly putting Nikki in a situation against her will, I think
Right.
I think the movie smartly in that scene when he's driving her home shows us a relationship between him and Nikki that genuinely has something to it's not like Bear's just deluding himself into thinking that there's like more of a connection between him and Nikki than there is. Like there is something there, or at least you can see why he thinks there is. Like he's not like completely delusional. You know what I mean? Like there's like we find out later in the film that according to Sarah, she has spoken about Bear in friend
Yeah.
zone terms, that she
Yeah.
considers him like a brother, that
Like
she
a little
doesn't see him
brother.
that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Um, and I totally get that. But again, like that's something that was heard from Sarah, who has a crush on Bear.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
like, how reliable is Sarah in what she's reporting?
Yeah.
We don't ever we never hear directly from Nikki about how she actually feels
No.
about Bear. And in that
No.
scene, when she's like, if you feel something about me, you should say it right now, even though she's annoyed because he just called her Freaky Nikki,
Yeah.
we don't know that if he were to go like, listen, Nikki, I have really strong feelings for you, and I would love to like
Yeah.
if you would be open to it, I would love to take you on a date. She might go like, okay, let's go to dinner. You know,
Yeah.
like let's see, and that might have happened. We'll never know
No.
because so what I think about Bear is that like his flaw is he's a wuss. He's a
Yeah.
chicken. He
Yeah.
doesn't know how to communicate. He doesn't
Yeah.
know how to state his feelings out loud. So his you know, if he's the representation of the male loneliness epidemic,
Yeah.
he is the architect of his own loneliness because he
Yeah.
won't do but I also get like the fear of rejection. The fear of rejection is really real.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I'll say about Bear is he makes this wish in his car. Immediately we get this really creepy scene. We establish this thing that Curry uses for the rest of the film, which is we sort of show Nikki in all
In
shadow.
shadow. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now she's the sort of visual representation is like she has been taken over
Yeah.
by some kind of
Whatever
shadow
it is. Yeah.
force.
It's not her. Yeah.
And I think that the way that the cinematographer and the lighting
Yes.
designer did this throughout the film is always very effective.
Oh,
and,
it was extremely effective.
and really, really
Yeah.
great. But again,
Yeah.
it's like in this moment, like one of my pet peeves in films with magic in them is when people like refuse to accept what's going on when it's like really obvious.
Yeah.
When it's like
Yeah.
when it's like it's Men in Black and it takes Will Smith seeing like 100 aliens before he's like, wait, I don't.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a bad example.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, you know what I'm talking about? Like when people like refuse.
It takes them forever to accept it.
And you're like, hey, it's pretty obvious that what's going on is going on. But in this movie, there's no reason for Bear to immediately just assume that his
magic has worked.
His magic wish has worked.
Yeah.
I think that it's reasonable for him to be like, whoa, that's weird that I made that wish and then immediately she came back to my car.
Yeah.
But what he does, which I think is commendable, is he doesn't hook up with Nikki that night, even though she's inviting him into her house. And then she's
Right.
like, fine, I'll go to your house. He thinks maybe she's on something. So he's like checking it and being like, are you okay?
Yeah,
You're
yeah, yeah,
acting
yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
And he's like thinking like maybe she took some Molly or maybe she
Yeah.
and I think the fact that he doesn't like hook up with her that night, even though she's like, come and sleep in the bed with me, and the fact that he recognizes that like something's not quite right and he doesn't take advantage that night shows me that like there's at least some awareness in his mind of like, okay, if I am going to date Nikki, I want to know that it's real. And that's his big thing is like the next day when he asks her like, how long have you been feeling like this, and she gives him the story like, well, it sort of started to develop around Christmas and it's just been sort of growing. I
Mhm.
think that he convinces himself that that's true. That like, and it's like, and of course, like that makes more sense than, well, you made a wish on a magic stick,
Well,
and I
yeah.
and I
Yeah.
immediately started like,
Yeah.
like, so he wants to believe the more grounded thing, but then her
Yeah.
behavior becomes more and more just like, what's going on here? But then there's the whole thing of like, does her dad have cancer? So
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so my feelings about Bear are complicated up until the scene before the car scene. You know,
Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I think
yeah.
honestly I mean, he's in my opinion, he is I agree with you that at the very beginning it's not like he was expecting that to happen. But then, like but I feel like he figures it out pretty quickly because I mean, after that night, he goes and he Googles like One Wish Willow, and then he kind of gives it up. But I think pretty much after that moment, he kind of starts to see. I mean, the cat thing is pretty immediate, right? And I think the term obsession is not about Nikki; it's about Bear.
Oh, for sure.
Bear is obsessed with Nikki.
Yeah.
He is the one who is obsessed.
Yeah.
And when he makes this love, I think pretty quickly he realizes that it's not genuine. And then he's trying to manipulate the situation to make her love him correctly.
Mhm.
And it's so I don't see him as a likable
Yeah, even
at
though
the
he
beginning, like,
knows that it's not real, he's like, maybe I can
yeah,
still he still wants to keep it.
he
Yeah.
does, and that's why when he asks about can I alter a wish?
Yeah.
That's what he says first, and then he says, "Oh, can I cancel a wish?" But it's like it's all on his terms,
Mhm.
and it's kind of like I don't. I think most people see him as not a good character, even though it started out fine. Like, dude, pretty quickly you can realize like this is not normal.
Yeah, and I think I agree with all of that, just
Yeah,
for the record. I
yeah,
would
yeah,
just say that what I think is smart that Curry's done here is I think that the easy option is to just make Bear more of a clear cut, just like selfish,
yes,
um,
I agree. I agree.
victim playing man who
Yes.
he can't see the personhood of Nikki. All he can see is what he wants and his own
Yes.
obsession. But I do think that it's like early on, it makes sense that like this thing he's wanted for so long, it's here. And even though it's weird and her behavior is weird, I think that I can buy into him going like, well, she's going through a lot. Her dad has
Right,
cancer,
right. Yes, yes.
and also like that thing that she does with the cat. Some people do that. Olivia told me this. This is a real
Really?
thing. There are people who they believe that because they believe that the soul takes 3 days to leave a body. So what they'll do with animals and with loved ones is they will lay them out on an altar for like 3 days in the home to give
Oh,
their soul a chance to leave. So again, even in that
interesting.
moment where it's like weird that Nikki goes and digs up his dead cat and puts it on an altar, this might just be Bear like, it's like again, this is the thing of like where you think you really want someone and you think you really know someone, and then
Yeah.
when you start dating you get to see sides of them that you've never seen before as a
Yeah, yeah,
friend,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
go like, oh, I didn't know you do that.
Yeah,
Or
that
like,
could yeah,
it's like if
yeah.
you've never spent the night with someone and then you find out they have night terrors, and it's like, oh,
Yeah,
didn't know you had night terrors. Okay,
yes,
okay, all right,
yeah.
that's a
Gotta figure that
dimension.
out. Yeah.
And it's like, all right, I can handle that.
Yeah,
Or
that actually happened to my cousin.
yeah, and it's
He
like
has night terrors.
I've been in a relationship with a woman who had night
There
terrors,
you go.
and it is
Uh,
very scary.
it's very scary. My
And
son has night terrors, and I hate it when he wakes up and he's having a hard
yeah,
time. Anyway,
yeah,
yes.
totally. And so it's like I think that again, like there's something going on here where it's like if you want to give Bear the benefit of the doubt as a character and say like, well, he's trying to believe like it can't be like yeah, he goes and looks up One Wish Willow, but then he's like,
Yeah, yeah,
come on,
yeah.
like because
Yeah.
the Reddit is like half people saying yeah, it's totally real, and half people saying like no, it's not. Come on,
Yeah, yeah.
guys, and it's like they're not just selling magic wish sticks in a new age store,
But he
like
is.
it.
They are.
Yeah, and I also think it's really fun. This movie's very funny too,
Yes.
and Curry's good
Yes.
at that stuff. I also think it's just really funny how casual the people at the store are about it.
Oh,
That
yeah.
they're
"Dude, you
like,
can't
yeah,
bring your energy in here." You know?
yeah, but they're
Yeah.
all just like they know that it works. They're like, yeah, yeah, like,
Yeah.
yeah. I think
I
that
find
that's
that whole part of it very I love that part of it that the store knows because
uh-huh.
the girl's like, "Just don't." People come in and complain all the time, like, "Oh, it's such a burden." And then the guy's like, "Well, I already used my wish, right?" Like, but I love and then he makes the call to the number, but I love that he doesn't explore that any more than that. I think
Also,
I think it leaves a great amount of mystery, but it doesn't it doesn't ruin the movie for me in creating a huge, you know.
but that scene is where whatever credibility we might be trying to give Bear, by
Oh,
that
so it's
scene, we've
gone.
got to lose it because it's like, hey man, you now know that this is indeed what's happening. Magic has taken place, and
Yeah.
in that customer service call, which this is what Curry does so well. And I think like there's this interview with Curry and Zach Kreger where they were talking about like the similarities
Oh, interesting.
between horror and
Yeah,
comedy.
yeah.
And I liked what Zach Kreger said. He goes, "It's in both genres. Uh, it's rhythmic storytelling to evoke an involuntary reaction from the audience, whether it's
Yeah,
laughter or a scream, like
yeah,
a, you know,
yeah.
like it's the same thing. And I like that in the same scenes, there's the party scene and this customer service scene that both are like very funny and very unnerving and very
Oh,
scary.
yeah, totally.
And like this it's Curry Barker, by the way, on the phone as the customer service
Yes,
guy.
he's the yeah, yeah.
But I just love that it's just like, "Hey."
Yeah.
It's like,
We
"Hello?"
don't
"Yeah."
really do that.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah,
man." And it's just like,
yeah.
but then he just
It's
goes like,
great.
but the which it's a funny conversation, but then he goes, "Do you wanna talk to her?" And he's
Yeah.
like,
See, that's the moment though, and that's the midpoint. That's the
"Yeah,
moment where I feel that is he
you're
knows.
right." I said the scene before the car, but actually, once he knows for sure
I
that
think that is
not
when he
only
knows.
is it that I mean, I think he's already had his suspicions that, like, I've known Nikki for a long time.
Yeah,
Something's wrong with
it's
her, and
not
I
her.
think it's
Yeah,
connected to this thing. He
yeah,
wouldn't be calling the customer service number
exactly.
if he didn't think that it was this thing. But then
Mhm.
once the guy says, "Do you wanna talk to her?" and he realizes that, like, what a I talked about this in my first thoughts because this is also a really smart thing that Curry does in the
Yeah,
screenplay is
yeah.
in movies like this, where, like, Wish Gone Wrong movies,
Mhm.
and, movies where someone's consciousness is taken over,
Yeah,
I think it's always interesting to explore the idea of like, okay, well, where does the other person go? Jordan Peele
yeah.
does this really well in Get Out with the
Right,
sunken place. I
right.
like that in Obsession, we don't actually ever get a definitive answer as
Yeah.
to where
Yes,
Nikki
yes.
is, but I actually think that the better comp here of like the wrong way to do this versus the right way to do this
Mhm.
is Wonder Woman 1984 is
Oh,
it's a wish movie. It's a movie about
yes,
wishes,
yes,
and Wonder Woman wishes to have Chris Pine's character back. And
yes,
what happens is his consciousness goes into another man's body. And
yes.
everyone that watched that movie went, wait, but where's that guy? And
Yeah,
then there were all these ethical questions about like, she's
yeah,
hooking up with this guy.
yeah.
And it's like, that guy's not consenting to
Right,
a
right.
relationship with Gal Gadot. Like, not that the guy might, not that,
Right,
not
right.
that he would say, but it's like
Yeah.
there were all of these like problems with the way that they wrote that into that screenplay, and that
Yes.
movie doesn't even attempt to answer the question of like, where's this other
No.
guy and
Yeah,
whose body.
yeah.
And I
They
like
could
that,
have
and
done it in a different way, a
I
little
think
bit
that they
better,
didn't even
for
need
sure.
to do the whole
I
body
agree.
swap. Yeah,
He
they
just
didn't need to.
here, he's just there, yeah.
Right.
You don't have
It
to answer it, nobody
Yeah,
cares.
they wrote themselves into like this ethical problem for no reason.
Yeah,
But I
totally.
love that Obsession doesn't go all the way to where Get
Yes,
Out goes, where it's like we
yes.
know where that person is, they're in the sunken place, which that that idea, it's like Nikki could be in the sunken place, which the sunken place is an absolute cosmic horror nightmare. This idea
Yes,
of seeing through your own eyes, but being stuck in a place
yes.
where you can't control your body, so you have to just watch someone else puppeteer your body,
Mhm.
helpless to do anything about it, would be very scary. But I feel like, based on the clues we get, Nikki is somewhere else entirely, and where
Yes.
she is such a horrifying place that all she can do is scream constantly, so that every time she shows back up, like the
Yeah.
party
Yeah.
scene and, like, the scene on the bed where they're kissing,
Yeah. Yeah.
she looks surprised, like she doesn't know
She
where
does.
she is. She looks
Yeah.
like she has just
Yeah.
teleported into the
Yeah.
room from somewhere
Yeah.
else. Yeah.
Totally. And I love that. I totally agree. I love that he doesn't give the answer, that it's kind of left up to us, but we get these clues as to what it
Mhm.
could be. Because yeah, I'm imagining that. I mean, the dude on the phone is like, "Do you want to talk to her?" And it's like, well, she's got to be somewhere, like, or there's something there. And when she wakes up, or when she's talking as herself to Bear,
In her sleep.
and in her sleep, she's asleep, right? Like, okay, so that's not really her. Like, where is she? She's obviously in a way that she can still sometimes control her body,
Mhm.
but she can't. And I find I also like Curry Barker has said that this is not a possession story. Like, she's not possessed, and uh, I kind of not like she's not possessed by a demon, but that's the easiest way to say what's happening to her.
Right. I mean,
And
she's literally, like, throwing up and,
yeah,
like,
and
it's got all the hallmarks of possession.
totally,
And
and
I
like,
even
and
think that her performance is very reminiscent of another
yes,
classic horror movie performance from a movie called Possession.
yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah, and
anyway.
I think she is somehow possessed, and the thing that's doing it doesn't really understand all of the ins and outs of human behavior, right? Because she's like, I really want you to stay with me because my cat died.
Mhm.
I mean, your cat died, right? Like, it's not really getting everything.
Yeah.
It's kind of trying to figure out, like, it's kind of trying to figure out how to make it all work, and it doesn't understand why it's not working.
I think that aspect of this movie is really cool too. The
Yeah.
idea that this entity, whatever is in
Yeah.
control of her body, if Curry doesn't wanna call it a demonic possession, that's
Yeah,
fine,
yeah.
but,
That's
like
yeah.
Nikki's not in charge, so something
No,
is.
she's
So
not. Something
yeah,
is, yeah.
um, but I do like that this thing doesn't appear to be malevolent to Bear. Like,
Yeah.
this thing is not there to, like, torture Bear. This thing really is doing what his wish wanted, which it's just like all
Yes.
this thing wants in the world is just to be as close romantically with Bear as possible,
Yes.
and the only time this thing gets violent or scary is when it feels like its proximity to Bear is threatened. So
Yes.
whatever this thing this entity that's created by the wish is, all it knows, all it's capable of doing is loving Bear. Like,
Yes.
it's really not capable of, like, of any
Yeah. Yeah.
it
It
can't
can't do
have
anything else.
it can't experience compassion for anyone else or
Yeah.
care for anyone else. It can only
Yeah.
experience singular
Yeah.
focus and obsessive love about Bear. Yeah,
That's that's its purpose.
yeah.
And that's how it feels like it needs to do that.
It
And
it
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 also is working against the agency of the person.
right.
Like Nikki, the real Nikki, that's not that's not her. That's not what she wants. Like, and
Yeah,
so it has to fight with, which I think makes it even more interesting, because it's like, oh, it's obviously pushing everything even worse than maybe what it could be, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah, there's also the angle of, like, you're right. This movie is about Bear's obsession with Nikki for
right.
sure, but I
Yeah.
also think that, like, you could say that whatever the entity is that is possessing Nikki is, like, the concept of obsession
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
anthropomorphized. Like, if you were
Yeah.
able to, like,
Yeah.
wish the concept of obsession into a person and be like, I want this person to become the concept of obsession.
Yeah.
That's the thing that is possessing her, rather than it being like an actual demon or something. It's just like
Yes.
the very concept, like all this, whatever this thing is,
Yeah.
all it knows how to do is be singularly focused
Yeah.
on Bear. But that's what it's like. It's not necessarily like inherently evil. It's just like,
No. I mean, yeah,
yeah,
but it's not inherently evil because it's not trying to do anything evil, but it doesn't realize that it's doing things that are evil, which I
Yeah.
think is kind of I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, it's not a typical possession movie in that
Yeah, it's
it's
not like a
not like
demon who works for Satan or
right,
something, you know?
that's
Yeah,
like I want to
yeah,
like use this body to like kill people
yeah,
and stuff. It's like,
yeah,
no, like literally all I want is to be in the most
yeah,
enmeshed, codependent,
yeah, yeah,
just like together relationship that's another movie that sort of plays with these themes is Together with
yeah.
Dave Franco and
Yeah, Franco and
Allison Brie.
Alison Brie, yep.
Yeah. But like all this thing wants that level of connection. It
Right.
would love to be like connected at the hip
Yes,
with Bear.
yes.
And so anything that threatens that, him having to go to work, him talking to
Yeah, yeah,
anyone else that's not him, um it can't handle that. And it
no.
can't handle that because it's evil. It can't handle that because Bear wished into existence this thing that's just like
Yeah,
anything that threatens my proximity to you
yeah,
it needs to be eliminated. That's
yeah,
how you have
yeah.
you have made me uncontrollably obsessed.
Yes,
Uh, yeah.
yes, and I think, yeah, I mean, getting back to the story, I'm trying to remember what happens. He has that first night with her where he
Sort of
does
feels
not
like she
sleep with
might be on
her.
drugs and feels
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
morning she's made him this amazing breakfast. But then he like, and this is what I was talking about where it's like Barker does these nice things where he undercuts these moments because it's like, okay, like you can see how Bear would be like, maybe,
yeah,
I don't know, maybe it's all coming true. Maybe my,
yeah.
but then he looks down on the ground and there's his cat.
There's his cat, yeah.
And but she's pretty good at like covering and being like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought it would be nice. And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that was weird.
yeah,
And I won't do,
yeah,
and like, yeah,
yeah, and
I like the way that he
well, and
escalates things,
yes,
but yeah.
it's little by little because then they
Mhm.
go to dinner that night,
Yeah.
and they have a good dinner, and then when he asks about he gets a phone call from, I guess it's Ian, his friend, right? Which
Yeah.
and he's like, "Dude, she doesn't like you, like, she said I overheard Nikki anyway, or not Nikki,
Also, like, her
Sarah."
dad doesn't have cancer, like, all
Yeah,
this stuff,
he's
yeah.
telling that to her, and then when Bear brings that up, that's when she really well, you see her walk out, and she's staring at him as he's on the call, which was
Yeah.
creepy.
Yeah.
But then she like when he calls her out, she gets up and she stands up and she starts yelling at him like, "I thought that didn't matter, right?" And he starts freaking out, and that's
This was the first scene too, I think, where I was like, "Oh, whoa."
yeah, me too.
Indy Neverrette's performance here is
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really like this is because at the very beginning, everything before this, I was like, this is interesting, but
Yeah.
not like super interesting. And then it switched. And it's
Mhm.
like, okay. And then during their dinner, he talks about wanting to be a food critic. So then the next day they go to work together and she's staring at him the whole time,
Mhm.
right? Like she doesn't take her eyes off of him.
She's made him
Or that was
lunch.
that was the night
That
before.
that's the day
That
before.
was the day
But
before.
also the whole montage of them dating where it shows
Yeah,
that,
where it's like
it
normal
seems like some time has passed, and so I think the dinner thing happens after this
after that.
montage
Yes.
because all of the friends are like, "What in the world?" Overnight, you guys were, like, connected at the hip, obsessed with each other,
Yeah.
dating. But he goes to work without her on a shift where she's not scheduled. But I also loved this reveal because it starts off, like, rather mundane. It's, like, in the morning, and she's like, "I'm gonna miss you when you're at work. I wish I was
Yeah.
scheduled too." And she's just kind of being, like, whiny and codependent. But then
Yep.
he's like, "Yeah, well, I'll see you right after work." And then he turns to the door and we just see his reaction first. And then the camera just shows us what he's looking at. And she has covered the entire door in
In duct
duct
tape.
tape. But he just sort of, and so like at this point, it's like Bear's got to know that
Yeah.
like something is not right. But also
Yeah.
it shows like how deeply obsessed he is with Nikki that he doesn't care that she's
Yeah.
not in her right mind. He
Yeah.
doesn't care that that even if she's not under the influence of the wish, she's clearly not doing well.
Yeah.
And rather than
Yeah.
like make sure that Nikki gets the help she needs, whatever she's going through that's making her
Yeah.
act like this, he's just like, I got to do whatever I got to do to keep her as my girlfriend. So he
Right.
tries to talk to her and be like, hey, don't do the thing with the cat. But she packs him lunch and he's talking with Sarah, who has a crush on him at work about his relationship with
Well, and
Nikki.
so he opens the door with
Yeah.
the duct tape on. He
Uh,
goes, and then she sits there and she has a smile.
oh, geez, the smile, and
And
she's
she's
just
she's smiling like that for like
yeah,
ever. And then the camera slowly moves down and she starts she starts peeing her pants. She
Yeah.
starts and it just goes on the floor and she
Oh,
stays there. And then
and
we cut to him.
it's also, like, unclear. It's like, is this her marking her territory, or is it
Yeah, like
literally
what's
just that,
going
like,
on?
her body is, like, comatose when he's not around? Like,
Yeah.
is she just, like,
Yeah.
not capable of, like,
Yeah.
you know but yeah, that shot was her face work in this movie,
Dude.
those
Crazy.
smiles when she, like,
Yeah.
smiles and does that, but then also the party scene when she's frowning
Oh,
was
yeah.
so scary. When she's just looking at him like
So,
this,
yeah. Like
I was
over the
like,
top. Yeah.
"Oh, geez," I was just like, "Oh," like, it's so unsettling. But yeah, then,
Totally.
he's talking to Sarah about it, and then Sarah, like, looks at this note that she left him, and she's like, "What does this mean? Like, what's the verdict? Cat." And he realizes that the sandwich he's eating, she has cooked the cat and put the cat in the sandwich, which,
Yes.
that's like, there's like a
So weird.
I also thought this was, like, funny, like, him practicing what he's gonna say to her when he gets home, where he's like, "You can't cook the cat, Nikki.
Yeah.
You can't," you can't, like, I think that the interplay between, like,
Yeah.
stuff that's just, like, awkward and absurd and over the top, and also
Yeah.
really unsettling is really
Yeah.
good here. But he sort of also gets challenged here before this scene by Ian. To Ian's like, "Hey, because he finds out that Ian's having a party without him, and then he's
Yes.
like, "How come you're hanging out without me?" And he's like, "Because you can't go anywhere without your Nikki, and it's gonna be you two are weird together."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's like, "And people think that you're being weird. They think that you're taking advantage of her right now. She's clear." Like, Ian brings up the
Right.
fact, and I think this is cool too, that rather than just going like, "Don't bring your crazy girlfriend to our hang," the fact that he says like, it looks like you're taking advantage of a girl who's
Right.
going through
Yeah.
maybe like a psychotic break. Like, she
Yeah.
genuinely doesn't seem like she's doing okay, and it seems like you're using this opportunity to take advantage of her. And and he's
Yeah.
like, "Well, you don't
Yeah.
know what's going on with us." And then he's like, "Cool, then prove it to me that you guys aren't as codependent as you seem.
Yeah.
Come together tonight as like a guys' night and show me that it's okay that you guys can spend a night apart
Yeah.
from each other."
Yeah.
And of course, he tries to confront Nikki about the cat, and he also tries to tell her that it's boys' night.
But like
Um,
he opens the door and he
yeah,
goes, "Duh." And she's standing in exactly the same place with exactly the same smile on her face. But now she has like vomit
she's like
all over
thrown
her.
up all over
Yeah.
herself. Yeah,
And she's
and
got like, and there's all this stuff on the floor. Like she's
yeah,
just gone to the bathroom right
yep,
there. And
yep.
he's like, she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. This is so weird." And like she runs into the bathroom and she says she's promised she'll clean it up. And he does. He's like, "Well, it's a boys' night. And I told Ian that I'd go there just as a boys' night." And she's like, sh- she's well, actually, you know what? We skipped the scene where they're in the bedroom.
I love the bedroom scene is so crazy. But I also
Oh
like
my
one of
gosh.
the early when they're
So
cuddling
crazy.
and he tries to move and she goes, "No!"
Yeah, she
And
yells.
and he's just like it's so
Yeah,
unsettling that he
it
just
really
tries to
is.
move a little bit and she just goes, "No!"
Yeah. Well,
You
because
know?
he wakes up, I think this is after the first time that they slept together.
Yeah.
And he wakes up and he's like, and okay, I haven't said this yet. Curry
Yeah.
Barker edited this movie.
Yeah.
He does an amazing job with the edit because
Mhm.
there are not many cuts in this movie comparative to any other movie out there. Like he holds on scenes for a long time.
Yeah.
And and the camera barely moves. It's like on sticks the whole time, which is also extreme. Like it works very effectively for this movie. But he wakes up and he's looking, and all you see like the TV or whatever, and like his drawers, and then like there's a shadow over to the right, and there's like a plant over to the left, and he's like, "Nikki," and then she's like, "I like to watch you sleep," and it's like it was the creepiest. This whole
Yeah,
scene
she's
was the
she's like, "Go back to
creepiest
bed.
scene.
I like to
Yeah,
watch you sleep." And she's
yeah,
just standing in the corner watching him. But then, I'd be so interested to know. It looks like they do some kind of speed ramping
they
effect,
do.
but
Yes,
she's like moving through the room and doing these weird movements, and it's
yeah,
just very off-putting. And she
it
picks
is.
up this plant and moves over to him with the plant in front of her face, and
Yeah,
she's like, "Pretty flowers, like you," like it is
yeah.
like this whole. It's just all
And
like,
it's so strange. And then
yeah,
she walks backwards and goes back to her place where you can't see
hmm
her anymore. And it's like that's the unsettling part to me is
yeah.
like this doesn't make any sense. Like what? And the way, like you said, the way that she moves is so unnatural. And it was so
Also,
effective.
Also, a thing that really shines here, we talked about this with the drama, and it's something that I'm noticing more and more, and the conversation between Zach Kreger and Curry Barker, they talked a lot about this. Sorry, I just
Mhm.
burped, excuse me.
You're good.
They talked a lot about this. The sound mixing in this movie is
Yeah,
huge,
yeah.
and they both talked about how, like, one of the major, because they were both talking, they both were guys who made short films and stuff on
Yeah,
YouTube and
yeah.
sketches, and they were talking about, like, the difference between, like, a student film and
Mhm.
a professional film, and both of them were like, "Oh, I never realized, like, when you actually get bought by the big boys and the big studios come in and they bring you into their, like, sound mixing
Yeah,
studio and you see
yeah.
what's, like, actually possible, what a major difference the sound mix makes." And I noticed, also just, like, a huge thing to be like, "Go see movies in the movie theater," because
Yes.
so much of the experience of what makes this movie work is the levels of, like, when she yells and the
Yes.
sound just gets so loud, and then the
Yeah,
way that the way that the sound will just go, and the sound of her voice when she's being whiny sometimes, when she's going
yeah,
like, "Why don't you love me?" And she's like, and
yeah,
the way that, like, that they do things with her voice to make it sound like they manipulate it a
yeah,
little bit, it is like the sound mixing was such a huge part of
yeah.
what made her performance
Oh,
also,
totally.
yeah,
Well, and it is
yeah,
like, okay, sound is the most underrated part of a movie.
yeah,
It's like if the sound, and it's probably just about the most important thing in the movie, right? Like it's when it's good, you never notice it. When it's bad, you notice it. And it's also like if you try to watch a movie that doesn't have the best picture, you can do that. But if you try to watch a movie with bad sound, you can't really do that, right? And this movie, the sound, as you're talking about, is so good. And I just watched Milk and Cereal,
yeah,
Curry Barker's like hour
mhm,
long film that's on YouTube. Which, have you seen it?
yeah, it's great.
It's great. I loved it.
Yeah,
He's very his movies are very engaging. Like he
mhm.
knows how to write. So, but the sound in that one is just not, and also
Of
just
course,
everything. And
they made
this
that
isn't
movie
a
for
dig on the film.
no, they made the movie for $800.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Which is like awesome. Like they made an
yeah,
awesome movie for
yeah.
$800.
The sound, the lighting,
But
the
like,
cinema,
yeah, and it
none of
is a found footage movie, so you give it a little leeway. But even still, the level of polish comparatively,
he's also got several short films that are horror. He has one called
yes.
Warnings and one called The Chair, and they're
Yeah, the
all
chair, I
like,
saw the chair,
The
yeah.
Chair, you can see a lot of the ideas
Yes,
from
you
this,
can.
but
And
the
even the sound in
yeah,
this as compared to the chair, which
totally.
the chair's good. Like, but it's amazing, like, it's going from college to like, it's going from college football to NFL football. They're really good in college, but going
Yeah,
to the NFL is so much better.
I think what you can see though, what I was impressed, because I went down the Curry Barker rabbit hole as well
Yeah,
with, like,
yeah, yeah,
all of
yeah.
his stuff on YouTube,
Right.
and what you can see, even when the sound and even when the cinematography and even when the lighting isn't there, and when you can tell that, like, he's got ideas that he wants to do visually
Yes.
that he's just not capable of
Right.
executing because he's just not as good
Yeah.
of a DP as
Yeah.
someone that he could hire
Yeah.
with a $700,000, and he's
Yeah.
just not as good of a lighting designer as someone he could
Right.
hire with a more
Right.
bigger budget, and he's just not as good of a sound mixer as so, like,
Yeah.
he's doing his best with limited tools, but what I still see in all of that stuff is good instincts. Is
Oh,
like
totally. Totally.
good story instincts, good editing instincts, good,
Yeah.
like even without the
Pacing and
sound,
timing and
and it's
everything.
like,
Yep.
and that's the thing, is it's like the sound is hugely important, cinematography is important, lighting is important, but without those fundamentals, without the,
Yeah. Yeah.
what's the reason why this movie's so good is because Curry honed in all of his filmmaking instincts
Yes.
before somebody gave him the budget to, like, to do it on this level. And
Right.
so it's like what you still see with Milk and Cereal, what you still see with The Chair, is those instincts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what you get to see with Obsession is like, and here's what those instincts look like with people who are able to execute the
Yeah.
aesthetic aspect of it
Yes.
all, you know?
Yes. absolutely.
Um,
But yeah,
but
that's let's see. Okay, so
yeah,
they
I
had
love
the
the way
bedroom
that
and
so it's as it's becoming more and more clear. The party scene is something that's there's so much going on in the party scene.
yeah.
They're playing this game, and like the party scene is a scene that goes back and forth between being like really funny and really
Mhm.
disturbing because there's this
Yeah.
element of like how awkward
Oh,
Nikki
yeah.
is at
Yeah.
the party, and everyone just be like this she reads this poem at one point, and I love the way that this is executed because 'cause they're playing this game of like Django where you pull a
Yeah.
block out and then you have to like read a dare on it and it like tells you,
Yeah.
but she pulls a block out, looks at it, sets it down, stands up and recites a poem from her phone that she's written. But
Yeah.
it's like we don't get to learn like did the block say
Yeah. We
that
have no idea.
we have no idea what the block said, but she reads this poem that's like this
It's
weird, like Hansel and
Hansel
Gretel
and Gretel,
poem, but it's
but
about
they're,
like
like, in love,
yeah,
and
which
they're, like,
also
married.
goes back to the thing of her saying she thinks of him as a brother,
Yes,
and then
yes.
she talks about how this thing of like taking a willow branch and
Yeah, it's only
it's
from the magic of a willow tree, or
right.
whatever. Yeah.
And it's very uncomfortable, but then when
Oh,
she
yeah.
finishes it, she's like, "No one will ever know the love that I have for you. No one in this room will ever know."
Yes.
And it's, like, very uncomfortable,
Yeah, and
and it's
everyone's like,
yeah. But
yeah.
then and so, like, that's the awkward part, but then it
Yeah.
gets to be Bear's turn, and Bear's dare is to kiss the person to his left, which is Sarah,
Sarah.
and
Yeah.
this is where we cut to Nikki's face, and it's the frown, and it's like, this is simultaneously
Yeah.
very funny and very scary.
Yeah, it
So,
is
like,
'cause it's like, okay, is she joking or is she like, what is she gonna do? You have no idea what she's gonna do.
it's got the energy of, like, Patty Harrison in, like, an "I think you should leave" sketch. Like, someone
Yeah,
who's
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like, it's, like,
Right, right.
very over the top, but then, like, this whole prolonged sequence of her awkwardly walking over and dragging Sarah's chair out of the way, and then
Yes.
getting and, like and taking Sarah's place, and it's just
Yeah,
so uncomfortable,
and then just,
but
like,
then
the real yeah.
what happens to break the scene is that Nikki, real Nikki pops back into, uh,
Yeah.
being for a second, starts screaming, "It's not me, it's not me, it's not me, help me," and she
Yeah.
hits herself in the face with, like, a glass and
Yeah, and she
yeah,
stabbed herself in the face.
stabs herself in the face,
Yeah.
which, like, this is maybe where the movie is like, it's like someone should step in and be like, "We have to take her to the hospital."
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
fact that, like, that doesn't
Well, that's
happen
what
or
they
that
no, they
yeah,
do. Remember, he
yeah.
does take her to the hospital,
Oh, yeah,
which
that's right.
I did think this was weird though, because I was like, "Well, why don't they take her?" Like, I didn't understand that scene because he takes her and the hospital lady's like, "No," like, and
Oh,
she's
yeah, that's
like,
right. Yeah, yeah,
which I
yeah,
was like, I don't really get why they wouldn't take her, and, because he seems to be, like, wanting to drop her off, and I didn't get what exactly was going on there, but
yeah,
they
I
do
wasn't
try to take her to he tries to take her to the hospital.
mhm. And everything pretty much from this point on, it's just we're into the 3rd act, and, like, this is, like, where it's all going downhill from here.
Yeah,
And, basically that night, as she's, like, trying to apologize and be
yeah,
like, "I'm sorry, then they're sleeping and cuddling. This is where he gets the text from
yeah,
Sarah that
yeah,
says, like, "I need to talk to you,"
yeah,
and he tries to sneak away, but, like, we've established that, like, Nikki is always watching him even when he's
yeah,
sleeping, but she seems to be asleep, so he gets up, and this is where we have the conversation where
yes,
real Nikki through the subconscious is like and she says, "Bear, kill me." But
yeah.
this is also, like, really well written because
Oh, totally.
it shows and this happens in relationships in real life all the time where, like, one person is trying to communicate something to the person that they're
Yes,
dating, and it's not personal. It's about an experience they're having.
right.
And the other person takes it it's like, "Well, why?" Like, basically what happens is she says, "Kill me," and the way Bear takes it is like, "Is it really that bad to be with me? It's
She
that
says,
bad?"
I've never been with you,"
And that's the
which
thing
she
is,
says,
like,
which
what
is like,
what he doesn't understand is she's like, "I'm not there. I'm
yeah,
in, like, some torture realm that you
yeah,
whipped me to." So it's
yeah,
like, I'm not saying, like, "Kill me," because it's torture dating
right,
you. I'm not
right,
there, you know? But he
exactly.
can't help but take it personally, which I think this is also a great commentary on the male loneliness epidemic where it's like,
Yeah,
you're not seeing the person, but all you're seeing is
right,
your own hurt feelings. All you're
which
seeing is, like
also makes Bear like, "Dude."
Yeah.
Like you have to know, like, first of all, you know this is against her will, and now that really just confirms that it's against her will, like 100%. So like, what are you doing? Like, this is so selfish.
Yeah, and rather than and then the only way he can really set her free is to kill himself, which is also like it's pretty gnarly, like the situation that he's stuck
Yeah.
in. But also like, you know, there's other things with this as we ramp down into the finale where it's like he could have taken this one wish willow to someone else and been like, here, I'll pay you $1,000, say these exact words and do this exact
Right,
thing.
right.
And maybe, you know, but like because Curry's talked about this too, that like there's nothing in the movie that tells us that the One Wish Willow is explicitly evil either. It's just that
Right.
Bear made an evil wish. He
Yeah,
wished someone's
right.
agency away.
Exactly.
But it's like the guy at the store's like, I made my wish and I'm fine.
Yeah,
And
exactly,
and
exactly.
when Ian wishes for $1 billion, he gets a
He
billion
gets
dollars and there's
$1 billion
no strings
raining from the
attached.
ceiling. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
no
like,
strings attached.
well, he
And so
does
it's
get
like,
shot, but yeah.
right. But also, and then I also want to talk about that because I felt like
We will. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that was a little sloppy.
That was, I agree.
Because it
But
was also
yeah.
like, it's like, what do you mean? Like he runs over to the house, like Bear, it worked. I got $1 million. And I was like,
Yeah, he
yeah,
was there.
he was there. What, like,
Yeah.
what? I think if anything, he should be running in going like, I'm sorry, I didn't believe you. Oh my gosh,
Yeah, that would have been better.
you know,
Yeah,
like
that would have been
something.
better.
I was like, why go with the dialogue of like, Bear, I just got $1 million or $1 billion.
$1 billion, yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
I know
he was there.
I also kind of half suspected, I don't know if there was any part of you that expected this, that they were going to like pull to a wide during this sequence because all we could see is stuff falling past their
Yeah,
faces.
yeah.
And I kind of thought because Curry's background is in humor, that they might like cut to a wide and it was going to be like doll heads falling from the ceiling. And it was going to be the old doll hairs
Doll
gag,
hairs.
you know, and it was just going to be like just so
Right,
many
right,
doll heads falling like
right.
into a, you know, something
That
like
would be
that
funny.
where I was like, but that would be a little too
Yeah,
sketch comedy
I think
for
it would.
the
Yeah,
tone of this film. But
yeah. But yeah,
um
he
yeah.
goes out and he meets with Sarah and he's talking to her. And again, this is what we talked about before. They frame it, and right when this happened, me and my friend looked at each other, and he's like, "He's dead," and I was like, "Yeah, she's gonna come through the window,"
Uh-huh.
and that was how it was framed, and you know that it's gonna happen
For one of them. We're going from
Yeah,
to each one and we're like, she's coming from one of those windows
she is.
for one of them.
But it's so funny because he stayed on that shot and he goes back and forth in this, he keeps going back and forth, shot, reverse shot, right? And it's like he uses it for so long that it doesn't, like, there's other movies where like they'll have a close up on somebody and then they keep talking back and forth. And then when you cut to the medium shot where it's framed, it's like somebody's going to come and grab him from there. And they do. And it's like, that was so obvious.
But he almost does it
plays
long
out
enough
no
that he
longer.
gets you to drop
Yeah,
your
throw
guard.
second. Exactly.
Mhm.
Which is genius.
Yeah.
Like he played the shot framed the same. And I thought it was amazing.
Also sound, what happens in a scene like this is the sound isn't going, it's not like scary music. It's not like,
yeah, exactly.
It almost goes away. And we're
Yeah.
just listening to the conversation and they're laughing and it's like the first like good conversation, normal conversation Bear's had in weeks.
Yeah.
And it feels like a relief. And that lack of sound, that lack of underscoring or anything is also very ominous in a horror film because you're like, you feel that emptiness feels like tension.
Right. It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're talking and she's like, listen, Ian has been hooking up with Nikki and he's never told you and he's jealous and all that. And he's like, well, what, what's going on? And he's like, well, they get to a point where he's basically like, well, do you like, what does he say? Does he say, do you like me or whatever?
Yeah.
But she essentially says, well, I was on your left. And it seems like they're having a moment. And then that's when you see Nikki just book at it. And it's like maybe not even a second. You see her running. She breaks through the window with a brick and she grabs Sarah's head and slams it over and over and over again. This was like a Family Guy joke.
It was so gnarly.
It went so long
to
where you thought like 4 times she'd be done. No, it's like,
nope.
It keeps going and going.
What's interesting about going down the Curry Barker pipeline is you see so many of the ideas that materialize in this film in those earlier things. You see
Yeah.
him do this in Milk and Cereal. He
Yes.
does it with someone where he
He does.
kills them by he has the brick. He and
Yep.
like you see the brick. You see the idea of like the weird movement and stuff in
Yeah.
both Warnings and The Chair.
Yes.
Warnings has
Yep.
a really great sequence where I think he had a friend who was like a dancer do this like really uncomfortable movement while wearing this
Interesting.
mask, and then she like looks at the camera in this mask, and it's like you see him playing with
Yeah. Yeah.
testing out a lot of these ideas in these
Right.
short films, and they all get to really come to fruition here with, you know, Indy Navarrette's
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing performance.
Totally.
And but yeah, she so they've killed Sarah. They're
Yeah,
gonna go
and
this.
first of all, he does it so long, which apparently he had to get rid of like 6 or 7 hits to avoid an NC-17 rating.
Wow.
So like
Wow.
there was even more, but
Wow.
literally her face is like off.
Yeah.
And like you see part of her skull or eye socket, like it was disturbing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was
I think what's more
very
disturbing is
effective.
when more disturbing to me is when we see her later. That like
Yes.
later on we see Sarah has been like set in a chair naked
Yeah.
with like her whole face gone and whole, you know, but like basically when we basically what happens after that is like they're together trying to get rid of the Sarah's body, but then he basically like covered in blood runs back to the store to be like,
Yeah.
you
Where's
got to
the
sell
One
me,
Wish Willow? Yeah.
you know, and they do this little funny gag where the
Yeah.
guy's like, what are you talking about? He's like, I don't
Yeah.
know. And then he's like, I'm
That's
kidding, man. They're right here.
pretty great.
He's like,
Yeah.
we moved
That
them
was
over by
pretty
the
great.
register, you know, but
Yeah,
then
I
like
loved that.
he tries to unwish his wish, and we find out that like you literally can't break the willow
No.
once you've made one wish. So he
Yep.
goes to Ian and he's like, you gotta like do this.
Yeah.
And I knew this right away. I was like, Ian's gonna wish for $1 billion. Like I knew it. And I
Yeah.
knew it was gonna be exactly that wish. I was like, Ian's gonna be like, whatever. I wish for $1 billion, and he does. And but then you know, so he basically this is where I'm like, he doesn't have to go right back to home
Yeah.
where Nikki is.
Yeah.
Like he could go to someone else and take some of the $1 billion and be like, hey, because he's got an extra One Wish Willow. He could even buy like 5 of them and be like, we're gonna do this till we get it right. Somebody
Right.
wish for my friend Nikki to come back. You know,
Right.
like
Right.
somebody like, you know, but so I don't have to kill myself to save her life.
Right.
But what he does is he goes right back to Nikki's place. I
His
think that
place.
his
Where
place.
she is.
And I think the thought is Nikki's so in love with me that she'll make the wish for me. If I
Yes.
ask her,
Because the
to-
guy said, yeah, the guy says maybe you can even someone says maybe she'll make the wish for you or something. So that's why he goes back. Yeah.
which again, like what's interesting about whatever's possessing her is like she will do anything
Yeah, that you ask her to.
that he asks her to.
Totally.
But she is so kind of unhinged in this space. Like she is off the deep end. She's got a gun. She's talking about like let's kill kill each other. And
he goes in, and it's like, what the heck is going on? There's a shrine to him with like, I paused it on one of these videos, and it's like, I think there's like floss, and there's like, you know, Coke cans and like things of his, like his shampoo, like all the stuff that he uses, she seems to have kept. Right. And she's made this weird shrine. And then on the TV, did you notice the TV?
What's on the TV?
It's him sleeping.
Whoa.
She's filmed him sleeping, and like this weird, you know, like it's just like all this weird
I
stuff.
did not
of
notice
her.
that.
Yes, she's filmed him, and like all these weird things of like, and this again, this entity thing is like, oh, he'll love this because I love him so much. I keep all of his stuff because I can't get rid of it because I love him so much. I film him while he sleeps because he's so cute when he sleeps, right? Like that's this thing, what it thinks is love, right? And then he sees Sarah is dead in the corner, and then she's got a gun and she looks like Sarah. She's got the same, because Sarah had a tattoo on her chest of a heart.
Yeah.
And so she put that on her chest, and like she's wearing her clothes, and she like is smoking like her. Oh, and this is, so he's at the shrine. This was the scariest movement that I saw. And it's only in it for like a second, but she's moving behind him, and it almost looks like stop motion.
Yeah.
And then he turns around and she's like smoking, and she's like,
I didn't realize that that's what she's doing, that she's trying to be like Sarah, that she's like, I'll be whatever. Yeah. I can be like, yeah.
So she looks like her. She's doing all these things, and she does have a gun, and she's like, she does say some pretty crazy stuff right there. She's, you know, I'll kill my whatever. She's talking about killing themselves or being together. Right.
Yeah.
And Ian comes in, as we talked about, and she just shoots him, which I thought was funny, but I do agree. I wish he would have been like, I'm sorry, I didn't believe you, but I have this
Right.
$1 billion. Like, let's go do something. But
Yeah.
it was just kind of weird.
The
And
yeah,
he
the
just
fact that
totally
he was like
dies.
it feels like maybe because they did some reshoots, so it feels like maybe
Yeah,
something like the $1 billion scene, I don't know, it feels like maybe something was a reshoot or
maybe.
but
Yeah.
overlooked, but that's
But it
it's a
also
s
wasn't the biggest deal.
I think that when a movie is this well executed, you get really granular and picky with, like, little
Yeah,
things that are
totally.
like that
Totally.
definitely doesn't ruin the film,
Yeah.
but, like, this whole ending where she's, like, on top of him and she's, like, throwing up in his face and she's like,
Oh,
"Say
yeah.
you
Oh, I forgot about
love
that.
me!" Yeah, and he's like, "I
Oh,
love
man.
you!"
Yeah.
But he gets the gun from her and he goes into the bathroom and, like, tells her, like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna," but
Yeah.
she's outside, like, banging on the door,
Yeah.
screaming at him,
Yeah.
and again, like, her vocal work is so terrifying, and the sound
Oh, yeah.
mixer, like,
Yeah.
just how loud she is outside, it's so
Yeah.
scary. He is trying to kill himself, but this is one more dig that I think Curry puts in at Bear here in this last moment that, like, Bear's, like, even, like, too much of a coward to just kill himself.
Yeah.
Like, he can't
Yes.
shoot himself, can't do it, so he takes some pills because he thinks that that'll be easier, but then he even is about to chicken out on the pills,
Yeah.
and then I love this that we hear
Which
the sound of the
Well,
one.
and
Yeah,
apparently, sorry to cut you off, but
yep.
apparently the, stopping and trying to throw up the pills was the actor's idea.
Ah,
Curry Barker had it written that he didn't do that, but I think that is the perfect thing
uh-huh.
that the actor, because yes, I agree, he would try to throw up and not do it. So, yeah, he throws up, but then he hears the sound.
Yep. Here's the sound. She's made her wish, which is obviously, I want Bear to love me as much as I love him.
Yes.
And so Bear comes out and he's in love with her. But what I loved about this was it was the twist on the classic Romeo and Juliet ending,
Yes,
where
I
like
did.
it's always so frustrating to watch Romeo and Juliet and wish like every time you watch it, you're like, can just one of them
Yeah,
like wake
yeah,
up just a little bit sooner? And so it's like they get to be together for like a second, happy in
yeah.
love, and but then he's
He's
dying, and she's
he's
like,
yep.
and so she's so sad that he's dying that she takes the gun, and it's gonna be the Romeo and Juliet thing. But the thing that's gonna set her free from the curse is he's gonna die. But it's like it's this timing thing of like if she shoots herself 1 second earlier, if she shoots himself a second before his heart stops
Yeah,
beating, you know,
yeah,
she won't make it. And luckily he dies right before.
right.
But then it's also like I say luckily, but it's like what
It's
world, what reality
yeah.
is Nikki coming back to?
Oh,
Because this movie leaves her in a bleak, bleak,
oh, her
bleak
best
situation.
friends, her 3 best friends are dead in that house.
She's
Like,
most likely going to be charged with
yes.
their murders.
Oh, yeah,
And
absolutely.
so it's like this is not like, well, at least Nikki gets a happy ending. It's like this is not a happy ending for Nikki.
No,
She
she's at
gets
least back in reality, but
yeah,
that's not yeah.
but like her life's ruined. Like
Ye
she's
oh,
like
totally.
yeah.
And I love this, the camera pans down and it
Mhm.
looks you see Bear and he's dead, and then it keeps going to the TV and then the credits roll.
He's also
And
dead very similar way to how his cat was at the beginning of the film,
yes.
where he's like foamed out
He's
of
had
his
the
mouth because
yep,
they
and
both
he had the
overdosed. Yeah.
pills.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
it's a great little foreshadowing thing, kinda bookending the movie. But here's what I gotta say.
Yeah.
I love how they ended this movie.
Mhm.
First of all, I'm really glad they didn't do the Romeo and Juliet ending because
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't have liked that. I
Yeah.
like that because it is a bleak ending. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
she's back, but this isn't really a good life, right?
Yeah.
But I have two other ending ideas that I thought
Okay.
it was going to go in. So the first thing that I thought was going to happen was that Bear was going to, or the first thing I thought was going to happen is she made the wish, and I was like, oh, he's going to go out there and they're going to just stare at each other and they will just sit and stare at each other until one of them dies.
Mm.
I thought that he wouldn't die, like he would throw up somehow, right? Or something. And if they, because she stood in that position watching the door until he got home,
Oh,
right?
that's a really interesting ending that they're so obsessed with each other. They just
They
sit there
just
and look at
stay
each other, and then when one of them
until
dies, the other one wakes up. Yeah,
yeah.
that's
So
crazy,
like
yeah.
I was like, I thought it was gonna like do some, possibly do like a fast forward, and they're just, they just stay there, and then
And they just,
one
like,
of them just
deteriorate.
yeah, one of them dies, and then the other one. Okay, so I thought that would have been an interesting ending.
Mhm.
Again, I'm not saying these are better than what they
No.
did. I like what he did, but and then the other ending, which I kind of have really liked is if he comes out, she's made he. I thought if she didn't make the wish, but he somehow stops himself from, he throws up, and he becomes, if he somehow becomes like a paraplegic and he can't move and can't do anything, but she is still obsessed with him
Mhm.
until he dies.
Yeah.
Like that was also, I thought, would be a very interesting way to end the movie, that because that makes it more torture for him. Like, dude, you have to live with this and you can't do anything about it. Like if they save his
Yeah, he,
life,
like, gives
he's a
himself brain
vegetable.
damage or something,
Yes,
yeah.
he's
Uh-huh.
still conscious, but he can't say anything, he can't do anything, but Nikki is still obsessed with him. Like, that would be a big, like, "Dude, you deserve this." Right? But, I mean, that it sucks for Nikki because she's also
That's
in
pretty
this.
good. That's pretty
So, like,
twisted, Kramer.
it is, but those were the 2 things that I thought were gonna happen, that I thought that I thought they would be very interesting. Again,
Yeah.
I love how he ended the movie. I think it's a good way to end the movie,
Yeah.
but I thought, "Oh, these are 2 different ways that you could
But
possibly
I
go."
I definitely with his ending, I definitely was like, "Well, I'm glad that Nikki's free from the curse," but also like,
Yes,
"My
exactly.
goodness." She
What
like,
a
there
horrible way
like,
back to.
there's a lot of implied story after the credits roll of like, what's gonna happen to her? But
Yeah,
if in your endings, it's like, well, we just stay in the, like, the curse of the wish,
right,
like, and then you
right.
play it out till its
Yeah.
logical conclusion or yeah,
Anyway,
but
yeah, let us know what you think of those endings in the comments.
yeah,
But anyway,
yeah.
I do still love this ending. I thought it just, I mean, and that ended, and me and my friend were just like, "Oh my gosh, that movie was crazy." Like,
Yeah, it's crazy.
so good.
I might go see it again in theaters before it's out of theaters just because I wanna watch Indy Navarrette's performance
Yeah,
again, and again, it's like a lot of the experience of what makes this movie great is the sound design, and I don't
totally.
know that it's gonna hit as hard at home, and this is just, these are the kinds of things that I don't think people realize they're missing when they only watch movies at home, is like, so
Yeah,
much of the experience of, like, prestige cinema and filmmaking, and I'm even saying prestige for a film that was made for less than $1,000,000,
yeah,
is sound
insane.
design, and, like,
Totally.
seeing something in a theater in the dark, the immersion of the experience, turning your phone off, getting completely, like, lost in it, and having the experience of, like, Indy Navarrette's performance, like, it hits so hard
Yeah,
because of the sound design and the way when they choose to mix her voice really, really up and when they choose to pull it back
yeah,
and, like, so much of, like, the musicality of the film is her vocal performance.
right, right.
So, yeah.
Totally. She was amazing.
Everybody
Absolutely the best
all
part.
4 of the leads are strong. Again, I think Cooper
Totally,
Tomlinson is a
totally.
strong actor. I think he's
Yeah,
funny. I think Michael Johnston does a nice,
yeah,
uh
they're all
yeah.
good,
Mhm.
totally solid, but she's just in another league. Not, and that's not even the right phrase. She just does it so well because she
Yeah.
has so much to work with, which is
Yeah.
great. So, and she hit it out of the park. And the other actors, like, if they would have been a bad performance, it would have brought the film down a little bit. But they do exactly what they need to do, and they give great performances as well. Also, Andy Richter in there.
Yeah.
Good to see Andy Richter. They
Yeah.
got somebody with a name. So
I'm excited for people to see the next one. I'm excited. I love that, like, he's already got the next one in the can. Like, that he's
yeah, the
already
next movie. Yeah.
yeah, movie's already in, like, it's already shot it, and I
Yeah.
think that, like,
Yeah.
Cooper and him, because Curry's in the next one, and I think
Oh,
Curry
okay.
and Cooper work really well together, and I think people are gonna be surprised that, like, Curry's a good actor. He's very good in Milk and Cereal.
Yeah,
He's
he
it
is
it's
good.
it's very
He's
reminiscent
off-putting.
of the movie Creep to me,
Okay.
and Mark
Okay.
Duplass's, performance in Creep.
Mhm.
Yeah, Curry's very good in that. But yeah, okay, so that is Obsession. Let's get into our scores. We score things out of
Yeah.
10 on this channel, 10 being the best. We give a score for the technical rating, the ending, rewatchability, cultural impact and relevance and significance, and our subjective score. So, Kramer, what is your technical rating for Obsession?
My technical rating, I gave a 9. I mean, everything is working. Like, the screenplay is really interesting. The acting is absolutely amazing. The cinematography is awesome. The it's funny. Like, I don't know, maybe I need to give it more, but also just like it was so well done. It is a low budget movie, and you can tell that it's low budget, but that's not a dig at the movie. They use their budget so effectively. Like there's only a few locations, but it doesn't feel like a single location. Like it still feels like a whole world, right? Like,
Yeah.
so they use so that's almost a positive. That is a positive for the movie because they use their budget effectively and they did an amazing job. So I feel like 9 was great.
Yeah, I gave it a 9 as well, and it's like I struggle to even say what I'm docking the 1 point for.
I know, me too.
It's
Yeah,
just like I so rarely give out 10s, but it's like it is, like, so impressive technically. It's so, like again, yeah, like, the fact that this was made for $750,000, I always go to, like, if you've got the fundamentals, if you understand the basics, you can make a good movie for anything. For
totally.
and Curry has done it. What the $700,000 gets them is that little bit more in the camera department, a little bit more in the lighting department, definitely on the back end once the film I'm sure they did a remix once the film was bought after TIFF, and they went back in and did another sound mix, but,
Yeah.
like, like, but,
And
like
it probably doesn't include the marketing budget. I
yeah,
imagine they spent
yeah.
a
And
few
that's
million on
it
that,
helps it yeah, it helps
which
it
is
get
great.
seen by more people, and
Yeah,
but it's like, if you got the fundamentals, then
totally,
so
totally.
this is very fundamentally sound, and for a concept that's so simple, it's like, it's really, really impressive how much he's able to get out of it, and how
Absolutely.
much he's able to say with it. So I might even bump it up to, like, a 9.5 because
I
good
know,
job, young man.
totally.
How about the ending?
The ending, I'm giving a 9.
Yeah.
It felt very satisfying. Like I was, oh yeah, that's a great way to end this movie. Like it totally on par with the rest of the film. Like, yeah, that feels very appropriate for what was going to happen. So I really loved it. And I can, again, with my 2 that I suggested, I could have seen this movie going in a few different directions. And I think it could have been interesting as well. So I think it's just, but I think I think they made a great choice with the ending of this film.
I feel the same way. So I'm at a 9 with the ending. It's something where I'm like, man, I have a lot of questions about what happens to Nikki after those credits roll, but also like
Yeah,
that's not like the movie doesn't need to answer every one of my questions.
exactly.
Ian's motivation for coming back in, I was like, it's a little,
Yeah,
like
yeah, a
like
little
it
bit.
feels like we just sort of like rushed through some things, but I
Right.
missed a lot of those details that you brought up. I didn't even I saw that she had drawn on herself, but I didn't realize she was drawing
Yes.
Sarah's tattoos. I think that makes it even richer.
Right.
I do like the sort of like subversion of the Romeo and Juliet trope.
Yes.
And I like the kind of book ending with the cat imagery.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, again, I'm like, I don't know what I'm docking a point for, but
I know,
here I
yeah,
am being
yeah.
stingy with
I
my points.
know.
How about rewatchability?
Rewatchability, I'm giving a 7. It's lower because it is a scary movie,
Mm,
and it's like it's also off-putting, so it's like harder to watch, but I do like the performances are so good, and it's just a fun movie. Like, I know it's weird to say that it was a fun movie to watch, but, like, I'm engaged the whole time, and I'm kinda nervous laughing, like, "Oh, man," like, and like, it pulls you in, so it's still a good watch,
yeah.
but it's not like I'm not going to run back to watch this all the time and rewatch it a bunch. But also, I think a lot of people will do that for this movie that love horror because I'm not the biggest horror fan, but I would love to rewatch this again. So
Yeah, I'm down to an 8.5 on rewatchability
nice.
because I do like watching horror movies at least 2 or 3 times. I like to see the different things that I missed. Like there's always like little like details of like themes and things like that.
Mhm.
And I feel like this movie's probably got a lot of stuff that I didn't quite pick up on the
Right,
first time
right,
that I think it'll get richer. And also
yeah,
I think that this performance from Indy Navarrette is something that I'm like, I'm gonna enjoy going back to just watch her unhinged crazy work.
totally.
She's getting lots of flowers for this, and they're all
Should
deserved.
all deserved. Yep.
How about cultural impact and significance?
Cultural impact. I'm giving a 9. And I would say that that's being bold because we never really know, but this has had such an impact on so many people. I mean, it made $27 million. I think it was $27 million its first weekend, which was not the number one movie in the world, but that was fine because that's a ton. Considering it
Yeah,
was made for less than $1 million,
yeah,
it's already in the profit. Like
mhm,
it's making a ton of money. But it's also just people are talking about it, and everyone has really liked this movie, even to the point that we're talking about Oscar buzz. And I've seen many other people who have suggested the same thing for Indy Navarrette. Like, and we'll see what happens, but I think she should be in the conversation. So I think this is, and I think it's also going to influence a lot of horror moving forward.
It could be nominated for best original screenplay. It could be nominated for, like for best
Could
sound
be.
mixing. Like it really could be.
Yeah, it could be.
But yeah, I give this an 8 because again, it's like it's hard to know. My algorithm right now is really obsessed with this movie and talking about it a lot, but I don't know if everyone in the wider conversation is. What it's big for, in my opinion, is I'm glad we are continuing I'm glad that like the internet content creator to indie horror filmmaker pipeline is alive and well and is doing well and is producing good work. We did Chris Stuckman's movie last year, and like that one didn't quite work out as well, but like that's all. They don't all have to be bangers. The Philippou brothers are cooking. Zach Kreger's killing it. I'm looking forward to what Curry's going to do next, and
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah. So we'll see how he does with it. It makes it more interesting now that he's attached.
Yeah, and I think I'm glad that more people from the internet space are being given a chance to do this, and totally. I'm just glad that young writer directors are being given a chance to like make movies that are original concepts and that aren't based on IP. And it's just like, go figure. People want to see that. People like it when it's well executed.
Totally.
Yeah,
absolutely.
How about your subjective score?
My subjective score is a 9. And this is honestly one of the best movies I've seen this year.
Yep.
I think it will be in my top 5 at the end of the year. We'll see what else comes out, but really, I loved this movie. I had a great experience with it. It was fun. It was scary, and it surprised me even when I had high expectations. So I loved it.
I gave it a 9 as well. Definitely probably going to be in the top 10 by the end of the year. Who knows if it'll make top 5. We got a lot of movies left to watch. So we'll see how I feel about Dune Prophecy or Dune 3, Messiah, Dune Messiah.
Yeah.
And
the Odyssey, and there's
the Odyssey,
Doomsday, and still a lot. So
lot, and probably a lot of things we're not even aware of. I'm excited. There's a lot of good hype around Backrooms, so I'm excited for that one.
I'm excited for that too.
Yeah.
As we said at the beginning, a young filmmaker, so I'm excited to see how it does.
Yeah, but that is not what's up next on our show. Backrooms is in 2 weeks, but next we're doing something a little lighter, a little more fun. Hopefully this is a nice time at the theater. We're going to go watch The Mandalorian and Grogu. I really want to enjoy this movie. I hope it's a good time. I am not expecting anything. I'm just going to
low expectations.
Yeah, I'm just going to hope that I don't hate it. But so that's what we're watching. If you want to go to the theater and watch The Mandalorian and Grogu along with us for next week, and we will see you then. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Bye.